Welcome everyone. We're here today to talk about critical incident response planning and how feedlots can actually plan to practice and review their critical incident response plan on an annual basis. So I'm joined today by Caitlin Herbert, Director of Gundamain Feedlot, based here in New Gowra, New South Wales. Really interested in terms of what you do as a feedlot in terms of your critical incident response planning.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So we base our critical incident response plans off of our risk register and what poses a significant risk to the business that we would need to reenact a critical incident response plan. So for example, today on the screen here, I've got our critical incident response plan for unusual illness and death, which I could link to on our risk register, the high priority level of an emergency animal disease outbreak. That's based off probability and impact to the business.
And how do you go about practicing this on an annual basis? So you've got the plan there in place. How do you go about practicing this with your staff?
So we have toolbox meetings weekly at the moment, and annually at least these plans I go in and I update them myself, and then I present them to the team. And it is a little bit of a question answer type quiz scenario that we do it in. And I have found that's the best place to get a lot of my information that I need to add in this from, is by asking the people, what do you think we would do next?
Excellent. So yeah, that's really the review process that comes from having that practice, is reviewing that document and ensuring everybody at the feedlot has ownership and knows their role in an incident. But how do you actually record the fact that you've practiced your critical incident response plan with the staff?
Yep, so when we do that, there is a section down the bottom here that I've written approved by the date and the next review date. So that's added onto our calendar and I'm given a notification when it's due for a review next. When I do that, I print this out at the staff meeting and everyone signs a copy of it, and then it's scanned and saved in our staff meeting files too.
So you've got that there as a record for the auditor when they come for the next audit. The training opportunity that's happened with your staff as well, so it could also go on your training register and record as well. You're sort of meeting both of those requirements. No, that's really good. I think from a feedlot's point of view, don't be overawed about what topic you use for your critical incident response plan. It's good when you're doing the training with staff, if it is something that triggers a livestock incident reporting process, because that just takes it to that next level. Whether it's an emergency animal disease, then there's a separate action plan for that as well. Which Caitlin's actually incorporated a little bit of it into here, which is great. But having that role there that, we've sort of, in this example, we've actually talked a little bit about also that product recall process. And we just need to be certain, but for a feedlot's point of view, to meet your NFAS requirements, you do need to be doing a critical incident response plan practice on an annual basis, as well as a standalone product recall notification scenario. So they are two separate activities, and it's just important that we don't roll them just into one and try to lump them into the one training activity with the staff. Keep them separate, and it gives you another opportunity to train and work with your staff.
So it just kind of starts with why we're doing this: committed to ensuring health and welfare. This plan provides a structured response to incidences of unusual illness or unexplained deaths in cattle. And I think it's important that we do finish the critical incident response plan with prevention, so how to prevent further losses and mitigate potential risks to food safety and biosecurity. So objectives of the plan is to identify and respond to unusual illness or deaths promptly, prevent disease spread within the feedlot and surrounding areas, ensure compliance with biosecurity and food safety regulations. I think that goes hand in hand with our NFAS compliance too, obviously.
Absolutely.
And minimise operational and financial impact. So the scope of this, like I said, it applies to sudden or unexplained cattle deaths, unusual disease symptoms, potential poisoning or toxic exposure, suspected zoonotic diseases, and potential reportable diseases as per government guidelines.
Yep.
So immediate response to actions, number 1 is identification and containment, isolating the affected animals, preventing movement of potentially exposed animals, and securing the area where the illnesses or deaths occurred, which would be securing the entire facility. Step 2 is notification and vet assessment. So notify the feedlot manager, which will be Andrew or myself, and they contact the veterinarian immediately if trigger level 1 is reached or exceeded. So I do reference the trigger levels down lower here. So for a feedlot our size, that would be in a 24-hour period, 55 pulls or 6 deaths within
Excellent. So that refers to the number of cattle are on feed at the feedlot at any point in time. And of course, feedlots can access that from the livestock incident reporting module or element within NFAS, those trigger tables. So that's great.
The feedlot manager will then notify Alpha if trigger level 2 is met or exceeded. And within the feedlot, we will conduct initial health assessments, including autopsies on affected animals, collect samples for laboratory testing if necessary. This is something that would be happening in communication with our vet.
Yep.
And if a suspected reportable disease, contact the emergency animal disease hotline. I've also got a note down the bottom that the feedlot manager is to notify the abattoir to flag any recently exited animals in case there were cattle that were processed and exited within the previous 48 hours. So next step, biosecurity and containment measures. Implement enhanced sanitation and disinfection procedures. A lot of this would be done in conjunction with that emergency animal disease hotline, and a lot of this would be under the instructions they give us too.
Yep.
Restrict access to affected areas for non-essential personnel. Ensure staff handling affected animals use appropriate PPE, which is something we should be doing on a daily anyway.
Absolutely, yes.
Prevent potential contamination of water sources and feed supply. Next, I've got communication reporting, so inform regulatory authorities if required. A lot of this would be done in conjunction with working with Alpha too, after reaching those trigger levels 2 and 3. Notifying livestock transporters, suppliers and customers if there is a potential impact on cattle movement, and maintaining accurate records of all symptoms, deaths and veterinary actions, which a lot of it we're fortunate to be able to do through our software system.
Yeah, very good.
As I referenced earlier, these are just the trigger levels. Like I said at the start, recovery from something like this and reminiscing back on those steps you took and where you can make changes in those steps, I always think that's an important part to include in my critical incident plans. So like I say, monitor remaining livestock closely for additional symptoms, dispose of deceased cattle in compliance with environmental and regulatory guidelines, evaluate operational impacts and adjust management strategies as needed, and reviewing biosecurity protocols and implementing additional safeguards if necessary. Similarly, incident reporting and review, documenting all illnesses or death incidents and actions taken, conducting post-incident review to identify areas for improvement, updating animal health protocols based on the investigation finding. That would be in conjunction with our vet. I do have contacts for all the people who would be involved and the numbers so that we're not having to search around. They're all on the critical incident response plan, and then just references for where I pulled this information from.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and it really does have that flow that we're looking for in your critical incident response plan as you progress through the incident, and also the fact that you've got all those numbers in there in the one place so that they're readily available. Is this a document that staff can access around the feedlot?
Yes, so this is on our general staff drive. Yep.
No, that's excellent. Are there any other sort of amendments or anything that you think could be made to improve the document, or you're pretty happy with how it sits at the moment?
No, I'm pretty happy with how it sits. Like I mentioned earlier, I did add in the notification to flag with the abattoir recently exited animals. I think you just don't know what you're dealing with until you've made your way through this process, and I think as long as all parties involved are aware, that's something we can do.
But thank you for that, Caitlin. That's excellent.